king.
thì nó mà biết cái tổ thả thì nó chỉ sử dụng cái văn chữ.
Now I want to see what does it mean to be a disciple.
thì nó bây giờ thả thì vấn đề bây giờ ôi đã thấy giờ tôi ít thứ tiền là Giêsu.
In Matthew 28, 18 to 20,
Nên là mà thầy trong những câu chuyện đây câu gì.
it says, Jesus says, again, like we said yesterday, go you therefore and make disciples of all nations.
Giêsu đâu thì cả bây giờ chỉ tờ một nó chân sống một trong.
What does disciple mean?
Thế một nó đó là một nó thứ tiền.
When we think of disciples, we usually think of the 12 apostles or the 12 people who followed Jesus.
thì nó luôn luôn thì thứ tiền hát chi thứ tiền về bên đó luôn xa thì thì có ở thứ tiền xứ.
And today I want to take you on a journey in time to see what it meant in Jesus' time to be a disciple.
thì nó được xa xứ xa cho bé một sai thì quay nơi cho thứ tiền tiền hay gì trong cái tiền.
And to do this, we need to understand their educational system.
thế là sao có khi bé cho cái thứ tiền trong cái.
Actually, in the area where Jesus grew up, most even boys and girls were being educated.
thì lúc xưa thời là Giêsu đâu nó yêu là ta chọn nhóm đấy đã cũng sản xuất một linh cái hình chân hình vậy.
And the school was run at the local synagogue, the Jewish church.
thì vào lúc xưa đấy thì nó cho tụi linh bé qua chữ nhá.
And when the children were about 5, 6, 7 years old, their parents would send them for about a half a day to study at the synagogue.
thì cả nhiệt gì nhớ lúc xưa đấy tụi nhỏ nhưng chỉ cho xong đấy cái nhiệt gì cũng muốn lấy sao một đầu cái chế và
And
cái qua chữ nhá.
this was called Vajtswv, or the house of travel. Vajtswv was the Hebrew name.
thì nó Hebrew thì Vajtswv giờ nó Hebrew rồi.
And it meant the house of travel. So you would come to school to learn how to go somewhere.
thì giờ họ khi có yêu trong mỗi lễ trong nhau chế thế đặt tại một.
And to understand this, I want to share a little bit what happened in the school.
thì người kia cho thì yêu chỉ là lúc chuyện đó nhá.
So in the school, the children, they would learn to read and write.
lúc xưa đấy thì trong mình nhỏ nó cỡ xong tới thế nhìn tới thế.
But the most important thing they would learn to do
họ cái tính chấp là what tao.
between about the time they were 6, 7 to the time they were 12,
thì trong mình nhỏ mình dùng linh chỉ cho xong có xong tới what tao giờ đi cả.
they had to learn the Old Testament by memory.
thì lấy tôi chữ
Or I'm sorry, the first 5 books of Moses.
thật sự thì giờ trong mình nhỏ tôi chữ chỉ phong đấy ở một xe đó xong.
And so they would memorize Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy by memory.
thì đối thì tôi chữ phong đấy chỉ kiến là vì chỉ đây chế đi theo mà nó tính về sao nó chữ phong đấy.
And they would learn some mathematics, and they would learn some history.
thì nó chỉ tôi chữ đó phong lấy theo thì chỉ tôi chữ cái kinh nghiệm của thế.
And once they had finished memorizing, they would graduate.
thì thôi là chữ tao nó là hai tao ta nó thì là thì kiểu đầu nó không thể là nó lút chuyện tao thế.
Now, not all the children would want to memorize, so some of them would drop out of school.
thì mà cái lần cô đầu học cái lần cô chữ tao để cô công thế.
Because it was a big thing to graduate, to memorize.
thì hôm nay họ lo cưng đầu rồi tao mình nhận tao chữ thế tao cỡ.
So when those who graduated and memorized the Old Testament, the Torah, the 5 books,
thì đâu cái lần mà cái đầu chữ tao chỉ phong tới nó văn cô cũng đấy.
the family would have a big celebration.
thì lấy một xe là quay cũng ý họ cái một xe đâu tao mình nhận nó thế.
And if the student was very good, the teacher, who was called a rabbi,
thì tôi xin khen đây của rabbi.
He would tell the parents, I think your son should continue to study.
thì nó có hai đâu thì gặp tôi mình nhận cỡ thế.
And with the rabbi's recommendation of their son to continue to study, the family would be very proud.
thì thôi cho tôi mình nhận cỡ là để qua đâu tôi nó không nên sẽ được cũng một cái một xe thế.
And he could start secondary education
thì nó muốn tôi nếu một cỡ Asia thế.
once he had finished this primary level.
thì cái vùng sau đó họ dùng cha vào một trong thế.
And on the secondary level now, they had more things to do.
thì thằng một cái đó là gì và những môn tối dành gì thế
They would learn more about the Jewish history.
thì nó cái cho kinh nghiệm được và đến cái sự nhận thế
They would learn poetry.
thế nó cái cho và lùa ba lùa thế
They would learn more advanced mathematics.
thế rồi và bao rồi nó và thông linh gì thế
But now they had to finish memorizing all the rest of the Old Testament.
thì nó chỉ có mình nói chúng tôi trước ta nó phổ và cũng thế
And this usually would take another 3 to 4 years. Now they were faster, and so about the time they were 15, 16, 17, they would finish.
thì thua nó dùng chỉ cái cho xong một cái nữa thì đi cái chỗ ta họ chỗ
And once they had this mastered, they had to learn. Their rabbi would say one verse, and they would have to continue saying after and before.
thì thôi sẽ hay đó mình nói thì một pin này thì sau thì đó mình chỉ sau
And they would learn to interpret the scriptures.
cái chữ tao đó văn cú thường thế
And they would learn what the great masters, religious masters before had taught, and they would learn how to share.
cái điều chữ và bao kia đó là tụ thế
And with this level, when they graduated,
rồi cái chỗ ở
again, there was a big party for these children.
thì lợi đã có trong mọi nó lo kiểu sẽ là mình nói thế
Now, the very best of the best,
họ dùng sắp là thằng nó
the rabbi would say, this young man needs to study more
thì người ta đó cái lưng mình thích tụ sĩ người ta phải thì tụi mình nói là tụi
to get like college level education.
thì tụi một cái cái xem cái college đó cái xem
And actually, there were very, very few of these
thì thôi người ta thỉnh nó là chỉ muốn chống lại một chân lưng là chứ
who had become so good that they needed to continue to study.
thì theo một chân lưng bây giờ họ cái
And
xem
so their rabbi would give them a recommendation.
thì tụi sĩ rồi bài nó đã soi cho ấy cho tới luôn gì
And now they would go study with a great rabbi.
thì nó có một cái gì nhá
And most of the rabbis just had like a school.
thì phiền đâu là sự sử dụng nhau trên tới
And the greatest ones were itinerant. They would take their students with them as they went from village to village teaching.
thìว่าthọ sĩ cho mình nó một cái gì cho mình nó một gì đấy gì gọi là dòng theo cái chuyện thực hiện nhé
Now, the great rabbis that are like mentioned in the Bible, Gamaliel, that's mentioned,
thì nhau với tự sĩ dòng nhau họ có của Daniel
you couldn't just come and say, can I study in your school?
chỉ những gì đấy rồi là cái ốc vừa học của cái từ tú cái này cái chuyện tới thế
They actually had agents. They had agents.
nó mua nó
The teachers had agents looking for the best students.
nó mua ít tên nên ngon thì được tụ thế
You know how football clubs, they have their agents who go everywhere looking for the best student here and the best football player there and the best football player there, and then they take them to play maybe for Manchester United or for Royal
thì
Madrid.
ว่าซื้อเรามันmua cái tên nên ngon chơi thì đó mình nhỏ nó và để linh tư kinh nghiệm từ thếเราlàรู้ว่าchuyện tới thế
And so the great rabbis had agents who were going from village to village looking for the best student to come to study at their college level.
thì thọ tự sĩ nó cũng một đôi ý rồi ý chế ý rồi dùng cái đó cũng tới và chân nhân gì
Now I want us to look at Jesus.
แต่ฉันเอาไปมีสาระไปหลอนใช่เลยเยซู
As we look at the beginning of the book of Matthew and the other Gospels,
ที่ไปหลอนใช่ผมคนเดินมาไทย
Jesus comes onto the scene, and even though Matthew presents him as a king, he is presenting himself as a rabbi.
ที่มาไทยมาในไรตัวตรงนี้ตุ้มดาว
And he comes and he says to John, follow me. And he drops everything and follows Jesus.
ที่เราđó thì tiểu bên tôi đi dòng hàng đó bên tôi đều cả bên chỉ bên bên Giêsu đó
Jesus isn't sending agents to look for the best of the best.
thì chỉ nói Giêsu đã tỏ ra đó được tu sĩ lần kia đó
He's like the great rabbis traveling from town to town.
chỉ nói thì đó sĩ nó đã tỏ một yếu rồi nó
And why does the disciples drop everything?
thì lúc xưa nó thì đó thứ thì cho thôi chứ
It's a great privilege, the highest honor, to be asked by a rabbi to follow me.
thì thôi nó bị chấp rồi giờ nhiều trời Giêsu đó
because you will have great honor and prestige in your community.
thì thằng đó thì nhiều theo mua lúa cũng bị rong nên được qua chuyện.
And these young men are thinking, what? I wasn't the best of the best, and here this great rabbi is calling me.
Thì cuối cùng tôi trong cha là hỏi rong thế thì tôi suy thì là hãy cụ thế.
I think that gives hope to each one of us that Jesus calls each one of us to be disciples. We don't have to be the best of the best.
Thì Chúa nó Chúa phụ bé là thì Chúa ta才được bé rong á, thì bé Chúa rong thì Chúa.
I want to share some examples to understand a little better how the relationship between the disciple and the rabbi was.
Thì sau mấy họ tuần nhân khi bé số rồi ta kia nó thì hôm nay thì thiết bị cho đi cả rong cho nó Chúa số thế.
First of all, they chose people who they believed could become like the rabbi.
Vâng, mình rằng là tính năng sai, tính năng hòa đã để chỉnh nhận rồi thì sư.
See, the rabbi was supposed to be a living example of how to follow the Old Testament.
Thì mà họ chẳng là để cho sư chúng tôi tôi có cầu và để tao lúc những cái đi qua đó cũng.
And you know the Old Testament was full of laws, and the Jews by the time of Jesus' time had hundreds of laws, 622 main ones and hundreds of others of exactly how to fill the law, and so the rabbi would be a living example of the law.
Nhưng mà hãy lòng mà qua chúng ta cái một tầng thật rồi có cái những cái thì giờ với từ xưa thì chỉ cho tôi tất cả đó rồi có cái những cái.
And so they expected their disciples to be able to learn to do everything he did. So they would watch how the rabbi walked, how he spoke, how he went, how he slept, how he went to the bathroom, because everything that in Jewish life was very regimented. But with the passing of the time, the rabbis had made the laws harder and harder, and the people were falling under the yoke of the many, many burdens and rules they had. And Jesus tells his disciples, and he tells us today, we hear the echo through time. He says, my yoke is easy. My burden is light. What does this mean? See, in the time of Jesus, the yoke was the meaning, all the rabbis would say their teachings were like a yoke. And the people who were under that heavy burden, Jesus says, my yoke is light and easy. Now, I want us to look at a story. You'll remember the story of Jesus and the disciples, they're out on the lake. And Jesus had told them to go ahead in the boat. And they're sailing across, and it's dark. And they're there tired coming along, and in a distance they see what they see, like someone walking across the water, and they're afraid and they think it's a ghost. Can you imagine yourself there and you're seeing on the water someone come to you walking? This would be very scary. And they soon realize, though, it's Jesus coming to them. And what does Peter do? Peter says, Lord, can I come to you? Now Peter's the only one doing what he is supposed to be doing. Remember, a rabbi called his disciples because he believed they could do anything he did. And the disciples are supposed to follow the lead of their master. So usually we think that maybe Peter was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing. All the disciples should have jumped out and said, Lord, can I come and walk with
但那
you?
個我都一直聽電，那你就我哋被導位就。
But Peter's the only one who
就
jumps
是
out.
主，就是被導一愣先，
And he starts to walk towards Jesus.
然後知道上來咧我做主耶穌，
Then he looks around to see his companions.
即係同大家啲人冇寫加入個一直聽
And he
電，
starts to sink.
即係被導就係啲幫好到後邊咧，
Now, why is Jesus sink? Why is Peter sinking?
即係那主耶穌咧，我大家幫我，
I believe it is because he started to believe he couldn't be like his master.
即係被導真正就肯定我到你主耶穌，
He started to doubt that he could be like Jesus.
即係幫寫啲咧，我去到你主耶穌。
How many times do we sink because we take our eyes off Jesus and we believe we can't be like him?
我到時候俾我殺你，俾到殺你，俾我去到啫。
You know, the disciples in Jesus' time, there's many accounts of how they were doing as the master was walking.
我到時候我都寫圖，那嘛我就出地，
There was a saying that the closest disciple should get the mud of his master on his tunic. So they would say, if you were walking and the master walked in a mud puddle, you walk in the mud puddle as well.
即係到啲要到主每一座，就主每一座啲。
So you were supposed to walk very close to him, do everything he did.
第就話因等於山，出事嚟。
Are we willing to do where Jesus leads us
我
and go
哋
where
俾你
Jesus
我哋主數啊，你要唔到主數咁得啲，
You know, in the book of Revelation,
碰到話出事，
there's something that says, you know, it talks about the last day generation, the 144,000.
因為他真係話啲更高啊，乜嘢一拍落過，一拍落到拍冷，
Which is symbolic, really. But what it says is they will follow the Lamb wherever he goes.
但係有好運對主數家做咗事嚟。
And my challenge to you this morning is that you will follow the Lamb wherever he goes.
即係為咗路沙喺度俾條個俾住對主數家個真嘅嚟。
Are you ready to be a disciple of Jesus?
但見到俾我有對主數家，俾我有我主數都貼地啲，
To follow our Rabbi Jesus
呢個中意主數啲，
wherever he asks us to go.
我係特別我用到啲，
May God bless you this morning.
佢話就唔講俾錯到得見到。
Let us stand to pray.
你上選咗俾佢話就嘅，
Dear God in heaven,
你都知道你上到，
we just ask that you will teach us to follow you wherever you go.
俾咁個俾佢俾頭個多俾做嘅就容易到啲，
Help us follow you as the sheep follows the shepherd.
個容易到邊係有弄到主有路啲，
That we will always be obedient.
個俾我做邊
And that we
有
won't take our eyes off you and not trust you.
個俾我冇有轉中個俾我弄到路，
That we will have faith that we can go wherever you go.
個俾我做見證做開，俾我冇到錯
And I
開
pray
個，
for each and every person this morning
你知頭個俾錯到，
that you will bless them,
有講我俾錯到，
that you will guide them,
有個俾錯到，
and you will reveal to them step by step
跟住
where you
把
are
俾
taking
個做
them.
嚟個做，
In your loving and blessed name of Jesus.
個俾拎住有用到嘅
Amen.
，amen。